was sat at work one morning, and I noticed a slight distortion in my eye, the vision in my left eye, and as I looked around the room, it just followed my eye around. I thought it was a little bit unusual and didn't pay it too much attention, but the next day I woke up and this area in my eye that was distorted was slightly bigger. By the time I got to the hospital, was visiting the hospital about a week later, I couldn't see my face in the mirror. I was panicking because every day I would wake up, I'd have less and less vision, and literally, I'd go to bed, I'd wake up, and I'd be able to see less than I could than when I went to bed. It transpired that I had macular degeneration, macular disease, which is the most common form of blindness in the developed world, but it's common in people towards the end of their lives. To actually hear a qualified surgeon say to you, listen, you probably will never see fully again. Whilst you still have a bit of vision, you need to learn Braille. This is an emergency. We will give you emergency treatment. I walked out that day, walked out of that hospital onto Harley Street, and burst into tears. Just thinking about that, it's just talking about this takes me back, and it's a difficult place to revisit, to be honest. So. Every visit to the hospital would follow the same procedure, and every time I would go in, and I'd be praying that I wouldn't need these injections, because they are the most unpleasant thing you can imagine. You'd see the needle coming towards your eye, and you'd feel the pressure against your eye, and then it'd like pushing against a grape, I suppose. It would push and push and push, and then suddenly it would pierce the outer of your eye and go. I'd always quite liked the idea of trying running from John O'Groats to Land's End, but it was always kind of a bit pie in the sky, and suddenly something happens. Well, it did for me. Something happens, and you think, what's it about? So I need to live a little bit more. I need to do some of the things I quite like the idea of doing, and this was one of them. And I just and I had the extra drive to do it because I had a reason to do it. So I started off. The first few days were an adventure, and then slowly they began to melt into a period of having to endure. The adventure turned into sort of endurance. Very quickly, I went from feeling good and feeling prepared to feeling utter exhaustion after day 3, because when you're on your own like that, you only have your internal voices telling you to go. One's telling you to move forward, the other one's telling you to stop, and it's all about finding ways of turning the volume down on the one that's telling you to stop, and turning the volume up on the one that's telling you to keep going, and blocking out everything else and just keep going. I'd been running, and there was a huge mountain to my left and a huge mountain to my right, and the scenery was awesome. And a couple of hours later, I looked to my left and the mountain's still there, and looked to my right and that mountain's still there. And I did say to them, I said out loud, and afterwards I did question my sanity. I said, you might be keeping up with me now, but I'll beat you to Land's End. And I did, but I did that at that point. Later on that evening, I did think, this is getting a bit out of hand. Running from John O'Groats to Land's End has its value in the adversity that you face in between. So the tiredness, the hills, the bad knees, the sore muscles, the bad weather, everything that's thrown at you, that's what gives the end goal its value. I've learnt more about myself over that course of those 34 days, valuable lessons that I probably have learnt in the last 20 years.